So you want to plant a victory garden this year? Here's where to plant it. Well, hey there, my name's Mini Myrick from the blog marriedmyrick.com, and every Wednesday I upload a new video on attainable homemaking for busy working women. If you watched this video, you know my best tips for how to take care of a garden and my best tips for plant lady success, okay? But today we're going to talk about where to put this garden. So it really depends on, of course, where you live. If you're in an apartment and you just have a small balcony or a window, or if you have a big backyard or even a homestead, it really depends on where you're at to determine the best place to put your garden. Now, I will give a disclaimer that I'm not talking about indoor gardening very much in this video. However, leave a comment below with any kinds of questions and I'll be sure to get back to you on them. The first place to put your garden is one of my favorite places to garden ever, and that is in raised beds. So I live in Southwest Missouri, and down here the soil is either really nice or rocks. And so because our soil is so rocky, raised beds are really common down here. Now you can build a raised bed very easily. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want. You can find even like waist high garden that are like pre-made at farm stores that are really expensive. You can make them that tall if you want, or you can do what I did, and it was very simple. We just laid concrete blocks and then filled it all in with the soil mix that we wanted. You have complete control over the soil profile that you have put into that raised bed. If you live in an apartment, if you have a balcony, you are definitely going to be limited to this. But even if you are like a first-time gardener and you have a big backyard but you just don't know where to start with trying to build the raised beds and you want to take the summer to do that, grow in just regular containers, guys. As long as you get a big enough container, you can grow a lot of things in containers. If you are growing in containers, like I said, you need to make sure that they are big enough size for the plant that you are growing. For example, if you have just like a standard 12-inch or bigger pot, don't put multiple tomatoes in there because it's not going to be enough room. You have to follow the same kind of planting guidelines as you would if you're planting in the ground. So in the ground, you're going to give each tomato maybe 2 feet or something like that in the ground. So you don't want to put like 4 tomatoes in a pot that you're not getting 2-foot spacing. For one, you're not going to get the same airflow. You're not going to get enough room for the roots to grow. Amateur gardeners oftentimes just think about how big the plant is based off of, what you can see, but you forget about what's underneath the soil line that you're not seeing, and that is the root system. They need to make sure that they have enough room to grow and really stabilize the plant and take up the nutrients that that plant is going to need. The other mistake that people make when they are growing things in containers is they don't use a potting mix. They might use topsoil, they might try to put sand in their containers. Things like that is only going to get compacted and really give you no porosity in the soil at all, which is so critical for the plant. The plant needs both air and water to survive, and at different times. If the plant is just wet 100% of the time, then you are going to get disease problems. It's not going to be able to take up the nutrients as well. It's just going to be really a sad plant. It's going to be a dead plant. So you need to make sure that whatever soil you're using has good drainage. Most potting mixes that you get either have something called perlite, which is volcanic rocks that have been heated up, and it's that white puffy thing that I see a lot of people call fertilizer. Guys, it's not fertilizer, it's inert. It does not have any nutrients at all, but it just adds to that porosity in the soil. The third way that you can grow your victory garden is in the ground. This is just a great way to be able to grow a lot of food in a small amount of space. And this year, for the first time, we tilled up like half the yard and we are planting a huge garden. We are so pumped because we are trying out lots of new plants. And the biggest thing when you are planting in the ground is to still make sure that you are amending the soil. That means adding things into the soil that it might need. If it is a very like gray color, then that means that a lot of the nutrients have been stripped out. But even if you have a really nice dark black or even some kind of red soil, you probably still need to add nutrients in to the soil for your plants to do their best and give you the best harvest. The fourth place to grow your victory garden is in a greenhouse. Now, I'm not saying that you need to build a commercial sized building or anything like that, but you can set up a small greenhouse on your property to be able to grow plants and extend your growing season. Especially if you're in a colder climate, a greenhouse can be a great way to have access to vegetables longer periods of times throughout the year. Now, the main thing to look for when you are looking for a greenhouse is something that is high quality and is going to actually last. Because if you're going to take the time to set up a greenhouse, you want to make sure that it doesn't just blow away tomorrow. You want to make sure too that whatever plastic that you're putting on the greenhouse, whether that be a polyethylene kind of film or a polycarbonate twin wall or corrugated plastic that is really durable and will last several years, you want to make sure that the light transmission is good and that it's not like opaque, because if you're putting something that's opaque on your greenhouse, then you're not going to get good light transmission, and it is going to definitely mess with your plant quality, because your plant is not going to get the same benefits from the sun that it needs. If a greenhouse is out of your budget, then place number 5, where you can grow your victory garden, might be a better option, and that is a high tunnel and or a cold frame. So a high tunnel is just a fancy term for basically what's a hoop house, and you just have hose and purlins that are set up, and it's kind of more of a temporary structure. You can take it down very easily. They even build high tunnels with, you can build this too yourself, with like either tires or sleds on the bottom so that you can actually drag it throughout your property if you did not want to grow in the same place twice. Now, a cold frame is also like a super budget friendly, easy way to extend your growing season, and probably it's something that I will be doing for this fall season. And really all you have to do is just dig a little bit into the ground and build up, like basically it's a mini greenhouse, but it's like mostly in the ground, and you just have glass or plastic. You can use old windows, which is what I really want to do, for a clear cover on the front. And it's going to be, further into the ground, which is going to help it to stay warmer during the colder months. And you can basically just extend your growing season and protect plants like kale, spinach, lettuce from frost, and you can extend your growing season for those plants. And I mean, who wouldn't want to go out and get fresh lettuce and kale and spinach, into the late season of fall or in the early days of spring? Maybe people who don't like kale, but besides that, my 6th and final place where to grow your victory garden is in a redneck greenhouse. So this is kind of embarrassing to admit, especially as somebody who has a Bachelor of Science in plant science and sells greenhouse supplies for a living. But I used a redneck greenhouse this year to start some seeds, because I'm usually out on the road a ton during the spring visiting my greenhouse growers, making sure that their crops are growing great and everything's going well for them. But this year, because of quarantines, I am home, and so we were like, let's, till up half the yard, let's get chickens, let's grow the plants. Let's do all the things that we would love to do normally, but I normally can't because of my job. So you guys, this year it was great. It was so much fun to be able to plant all of these seeds that we had. But we didn't really have a great way to start them. In an ideal world, I would have a plug grade mix, I would have a plug tray, and I would start all these seeds as plugs, bump them up to like a 4 or 4.5 inch pot, and then transfer them into the soil. But since we're doing this on a budget and we did this on a whim because we were not really expecting to do this, I had a bunch of old coffee cups left over, and I had these clear plastic tubs that I could use to cover and bring into the shed really quickly if it's going to get cold. It's actually working just fine. We were able to just sprout our radishes and transplant those into the ground. They're doing great so far. And we already have tomatoes and squash and peas and beans, and I don't even know, we have a lot of different vegetables. We are so excited. That wraps up all of my ways on where to grow your victory garden. However, if you want to know the steps that you need to take to grow your victory garden, be sure to check out this video, which is coming out next week. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Turn that bell notification on, and I will teach you all the steps on how to grow a victory garden this year.